Hello from DP's House of Fine Confections. This is Jeremy Anderson. I'm trying to do something a little different today than my YouTube channel, which is full of bad advice and things you don't really want to do, and make an actual serious video. And so here today, I just wanted to discuss candy making. I know a lot of you are doing that this time of year, and obviously here at DP's House of Fine Confections, I am doing a lot of candy making. In particular, I make a lot of brittles, toffee, and caramels. And when you're on the internet, what I'm finding out, or what I've noticed over time, is that the instructions out there are either very vague and not helpful, or they provide you with such complex steps because they're showing their great knowledge of candy making and confections, and they're wowing you with these detailed steps that it becomes very complex to make a peanut brittle. So just a few things here that might help you on some common mistakes that I've found that I've made over the years, and you might make too. First, I want to talk a little bit about when you're making a brittle, some of the important steps. So one thing that you find a lot is stirring is kind of gray. Like it says stir often, or stir here, or stir that. But what you really need to know is if when you're early on in the process, the stirring doesn't need to happen as often. And so, if you sit there and stir brittle, sometimes it'll take 20 minutes to make a big batch of brittle. If you're making as a double batch or a large amount like I do, it takes a while to get that heated up. And if you're stirring the whole time, your arm's going to get very tired. So the really important part, I guess, that I'm getting to where you want to start stirring is when you hit about that 275 mark. So most recipes out there for brittle will have you add the nuts at around 275. When you do that, it will cool the mixture significantly, and it causes it to kind of gel up. As soon as that happens, if you go without stirring for 15-20 seconds, it will start burning around the edge of your pan, especially if you're cooking on a gas stove like I am at high heat. You're going to have some funny tasting brittle in no time at all. So when you add the nuts, or your mixed nuts, your pecans, your peanuts, whatever you're doing, that is a critical point. You've got to stir all the time. From that point forward, you might as well get used to a tired arm, right? Because if you stop stirring, it will likely burn quickly. Before that point, when it's 220 and it's just bubbling and it's kind of condensing down and going through that process, you can stir kind of randomly here and there every 30 seconds or whatever, but you don't really have to continuously stir. But my tip is, once you add the nuts, make sure you're continuously stirring. Second tip, just moving over to caramel, that's often confusing, is when and how to add the cream and things to your caramel. And so a lot of recipes on caramel have about caramelizing the sugar, and then you add the cream and you do this, that, and the next thing. I have found for all the caramels I make that some of those steps really are unnecessary depending on the flavor that you're trying to get on your caramel. But you also can't dump all your ingredients in at once on caramel. And so one of the things that is common for caramel is you're going to have some cream, you're going to have sugar, probably some corn syrup maybe, possibly water or some other ingredient, some liquid ingredient, sugar. And so what I like to do is I don't ever add the cream right away, but a lot of times if my recipe that I'm using is going to use corn syrup or some other liquid along with the sugar, I combine those ingredients and I mix those and stir those until the sugar granules break down. And so that's approximately 225 degrees, just past boiling point. And you can dip a spoon in there and check to see if it's broke down or not. If it has broke down and you don't see the sugar anymore and that's dissolved, that's when I then slowly mixed in my cream. And that's kind of just a little side note. I don't see many recipes out there on the internet that offer that. And If you dump it all in there at once, not to get too deep into it, but a lot of times your sugar may not properly dissolve. It could crystallize on you afterwards and turn into a grainy texture. And so there's a lot of technical terms and mumbo jumbo that you can find out there if you want to know all the chemical processes that happen. But an easy tip is boil your mixture or bring it to a boil. Check, make sure your sugar has dissolved, and then start adding your cream slowly at that point and stir it into your mixture, and then bring back to your, probably 248 to 250 if you're making a typical caramel. So I hope you found this helpful. Feel free to check out some of my videos on YouTube. Don't follow most of that advice, except I may post this one out there, so I have a reference link to it. And as always, visit and like my page, DP's House of Fine Confections, on Facebook. Thank you.